The truth about medical costs in retirement. Probably one of my biggest pet peeves there is. So my man Jim writes this, and he said, it's a good question. I'm not mad at Jim. I'm trying to ladle some gravy on people so they can just not worry so much. The number 2 cause of death for people who have COVID is what? Obesity is number 1. What's number 2? Anxiety. Stop worrying so much. Josh, I just viewed one of your YouTube videos in which you said you currently have long-term care insurance, but will drop it when your kids are grown and your mortgage is paid off. I'm 60, my wife is 55. We're currently shopping for long-term care insurance to protect our assets if either of us will require long-term care in the future. My question is, how long will you pay for long-term care for you and your wife? How will you pay for long-term care for you if your wife in your golden years? Thanks for your help. All right, we're going to go to my book right here. You Can Retire on Social Security, Chapter 15, The Truth About Healthcare Costs and Retirement. And I'm just going to read it to you because I tell you, man, a simple solution. Actually, I wonder if I can, let me see if I can't bring it up. Where'd you get this book? I don't even know, it's free on Kindle Unlimited. I think, $5.99 or something like that, if even that, the paperback book. Just get it. So we're going to go to chapter, let's see, The Truth About Social Retirement Costs and Social Security, Chapter 15. That's page 91. So hold on just a second. 2018, so some of the links might be dead. I don't know. But anyway, just check this out. Every year, Fidelity releases its study on the cost of healthcare and retirement. And every single year, I remember that using this study when I just started out as a broker in 2005 in the seminars I did. Back then, the costs were only around $180,000 or so. Now those costs are nearly $300,000 due to inflation. And every single year, folks in the financial services industry use this study to scare people into saving more and working longer. There is a recent tweet from Jonathan Clements. I'm not on Twitter, by the way. I saw this on LinkedIn. And by the way, this we will get into his specific question, old Jim's, about health, long-term care. All right, so Jonathan Clements tweeting at 4:30 a.m., getting up awful early on 2019. A 60-year-old couple in 2019 will spend an average of $285,000 in today's dollars on their retirement medical costs. And that doesn't include long-term care. Oh, no. All right, so if Clemens and others' assertions about the true cost of healthcare and retirement are correct, is there a solution? Of course there is, and thankfully Fidelity tells us what it is. To help fill a gap in saving for healthcare expenses, consider increasing contributions to your tax-advantaged accounts. Invest more money, they say. Of course that's a solution. That's how they get paid. Interesting that no one in the financial services business mentioned the obvious, at least to me, about a very simple way to deal with those hefty costs. Fire your financial advisor. In fact, I did a video on that here, but I'm not going to talk about that. All right. For the record, I take issue with the Fidelity study because they don't show. They don't mention that the average retired couple will need over $500,000 for food, or over $800,000 for housing, or over $300,000 for transportation. To use a lump sum today to estimate future annual expenses is just silly. Secondly, why the focus solely on healthcare? After all, healthcare is not even close to the biggest expense most retirees will face. Well, because no one would take seriously a study that declared the average couple will need $500,000 for food over the course of their retirement. People know that they have to pay for food, and that food is a daily cost. So there isn't a fear of the unknown that exists with food like there exists with healthcare. And that's the rub. These people are preying on the fears of the unknown. All right. Just go back to table 21 in chapter 11. Healthcare is not even the top 3 of all expenses for households over 55 years old. It's only when the household is above 75 years old does healthcare become the top 3 expense. And even then, healthcare is just a tad more expensive than transportation and food, and still way behind housing and total cost. So, I mean, it's basically tied for top 3. But let's take a moment to identify how Fidelity came up with that study. The average 65-plus retiree should expect to pay around $5,000 a year in healthcare premiums and out-of-pocket expenses. I have no problem with this finding. It's in line with the BLS studies, too. In fact, I use that real quick. I use that for my own healthcare when you're on Medicare, about $5,000 a year. Part B, Part D, your Medicare supplemental policy. You might get a Part C instead, Medicare Advantage, and then out-of-pocket expenses. Like, no problem with that, none whatsoever. All right. But again, why focus on this cost from the doom and gloom types? You need to eat 3 meals a day. How much does it cost to eat that? All right. So Jonathan Clemens says this. Out-of-pocket medical costs devour 18% of the average retiree's income, according to Boston College. Out-of-pocket medical costs devour 18% of the average retiree's income. This excludes long-term care costs. For 6% of retirees, medical costs eat up more than half their income. Notice this includes long-term care. We hear that all the time. Healthcare costs are expensive. You should be worried. And that doesn't include healthcare, long-term care costs. So let's look at what the healthcare cost should be. Thankfully, the good folks at Genworth has a study of long-term care costs. Yeah, let's see. Nursing home, assisted living, annual cost, $48,000, $90,000 for a private home nursing home, $100,000 for a nursing home private, semi-private, $18,000 for adult daycare, home health aides, $50,000 a year, homemaker services, $48,000 a year. Huh, interesting. What is Genworth? They're an insurance company that sells things like long-term care, life insurance, annuities. Do you see a pattern here? Fidelity conducts a survey on the cost of healthcare and retirement. It finds the costs are high, and they have solutions for us. Genworth finds this annual survey that long-term care costs are high, and they have solutions for us too. All right. So check this out. I also want to say that real quick. Notice 18% of the average retiree's income. All right. So you make $100,000, you're paying $18,000 of the average retiree's income. That's not a crisis. 6% of retirees spend more than half their income on medical costs. That means 94% aren't, which exactly goes in line with the reality, which I'm going to show with you here in just a second. 70% of older Americans could face this colossal expense. Are you factoring the cost of long-term care costs or retirement plans? Are you taking steps to address this major retirement concern? It's an expense that 70% of seniors are going to pay. It's not just a motley fool that screams with headlines about how retirees will have long-term care costs. Market Watch, healthcare will cost $280,000 in retirement. That doesn't include long-term care. All right, here's a good article from Morningstar, which published the accompanying table. 52% of people turning 65 will need some type of long-term care. Oh my goodness, a half will need some type of long-term care. 58% of women 65 and older will need some kind of long-term care. All right, 47% of men. 2.5 years, the average number of years women will need long-term care. 58% of women over 65 will need long-term care, and the average number of years women will need long-term care is 2.5 years. We get someplace here. So remember, of the 58% who needed long-term care, that's 42% who didn't. The average number who needed that will need 2.5 years. All right, that's what they're saying. 1.5 years is what men will need. 14% of people will need long-term care for longer than 5 years. Now, this table may sound frightening. After all, more than half of people who turn 65 need some type of long-term care. But then we find percent of individuals turning 65 between 2015 and 19 who will spend less than $25,000 on long-term care in their lifetimes. 57% of individuals turning 65 between 2015 and 2019 who spent less than $25,000. 15% of individuals turning 65 between 2015 and 2019 who spent more than $250 on long-term care. You see something? 57% spent less than $25,000 in long-term care during their lifetimes. 15% spent more than $250,000, which is exactly right. So again, 58% of the women age 65 will need long-term care. Average number of years women will need long-term care is 2.5 years. And everyone wants to then turn around and go to this table as if we're going to need assisted living or a nursing home. No, long-term care consists of lots of different arrangements. It's not all nursing homes that cost $100,000 a year. So 15% of the people who turned 65 between 2015 and 2019 spent $250,000 or more. All right, and then we look at the National Association. Oh my lands, the expected cost of long-term care from age 65 to death for those turning 65 in 2015 to 2019. That's the source is HHS. Who I just did a video, by the way, on how the ICU beds are not overwhelmed. All right, so what we have here, we have, what's that, 15% spent more than $250, 48% spent nothing, and you can see. You got 3% spent between less than two, let's see, we right here. Over 100%, over $100,000. We have 8, 12, 15, So what's that? 40% of the people spend more than $100,000. Wow. Notice this is expected long-term care costs, not actual long-term care costs. And even though it's an insurance-sponsored study, it still looks quite favorable. Only 30% of the population, or 30%, I guess. Yeah, that's right. So we got, what's that? 7, 10, 13. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, 30% of the population is expected to spend more than $100,000 over the course of their lives for long-term care, which means 70% of the people are expected to spend less. But that's just the expected. What do the actual expenditures say? From the Employee Benefit Research Institute. Unlike many studies, our study includes only expenses for healthcare services actually used. Medicare insurance premiums are not included and is based on self-reported expenses of actual retirees and not on projections. All right. Self-reported expenses are from the panel data and the asset and health dynamics among the oldest ahead from the cohort of Health and Retirement Service study at the University of Michigan. For the majority of surveyed people, out-of-pocket healthcare expenses are not as high as commonly believed. For those who die at age 95 or later, the median, 50% more, 50% less, cumulative out-of-pocket expense at age 70 until death is slightly above $27,000. The median 90 and 95th percentile of average annual out-of-pocket expenses are $2, $11, and $19,000 respectively. The median average out-of-pocket expenses. That includes long-term care. Those with a median average annual cost of $2,000. Now, again, that's in the 90th percentile, right? But the 50th percentile, the median, is right here, 19,000. And if those who are over 70 and die over 80, 95 or later, it's only $27,000. But out-of-pocket expenses are catastrophic for some. Again, those who die at 95 or later, the 90th and 95th percentile were 172 and 269,000 respectively. Nursing home expenses are one of the biggest numbers to skew the distribution. For all surveyed people, the median out-of-pocket nursing home expense is $0. All right. This is actually no different than worrying about the bug that's floating around. Some people are going to get devastated by it, without question. The vast majority of us will not. It's just that simple. Just that simple. And there's steps you can take, actually, to remove yourself from being part of that catastrophic case. Now, at some point, you can't control Alzheimer's. You can't control a lot of things you can't control. Well, not a lot, but some things. I get it. At the end of the day, though, the likelihood of you spending a significant amount of money in long-term care is just not high. Secondly, what's this thing that I'm living in? What do I live in? I live in a house. All right. What happens typically for a couple? Husband goes first. Wife needs long-term care. If she does, she sells a home and goes to an assisted living facility. It's just that simple. Just that simple. The equity in your home will provide you, the vast majority of us, enough to go into an assisted living facility. If, in the unlikely case that you need to. Just stop worrying about it. That's why I'm dropping it. Say, look, got a house. If we need to go long-term care, take a reverse mortgage, or sell the house and we'll go in. Continuing care retirement committee is what I plan on going in. Look them up. All right. Love to hear your thoughts. We'll see you